yesterday, my column in the Detroit News, it runs Mondays and Thursdays. I talked about this sobering report: home ownership, incarceration, and unemployment as the factors holding black people hostage. Here's the deal. Before we went to the break, we were in Chase Bank and talking about just financial institutions that engage in redlining. And of course, this was a report in the Detroit News. Talked about just how area blacks have been denied loans and so forth. Let me introduce our panel. Businessman Brian Cartwright, Attorney Tina Patterson here, and political analyst Sam Riddle. But I want to do this for the panel. I want to go back to history. I'm very fond of history. I'm a history buff. And 1965, I think it was, Lyndon Johnson went to Howard University for a historic commencement address, which really touched on many levels. And in fact, I cited an excerpt from that commencement speech in my column yesterday about Lyndon Johnson. But take a listen. Here was Lyndon Johnson, the same man who actually impaneled the Carter Commission.
But this victory, as Winston Churchill said of another triumph for freedom, is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning. That beginning is freedom. And the barriers to that freedom are tumbling down. Freedom is the right to share fully and equally in American society. To vote, to hold a job, to enter a public place, to go to school. It is the right to be treated in every part of our national life as a person equal in dignity and promise to all others. But freedom is not enough. You do not wipe away the scars of centuries by saying now, you are free to go where you want and do as you desire and choose the leaders you please. You do not take a person who...
Let's go back to President Lyndon Johnson. Take a listen to what he's saying here.
Fully and equally in American society. To vote, to hold a job, to enter a public place, to go to school. It is the right to be treated in every part of our national life as a person equal in dignity and promise to all others. But freedom is not enough. You do not wipe away the scars of centuries by saying now, you are free to go where you want and do as you desire and choose the leaders you please. You do not take a person who for years has been hobbled by chains and liberating, bringing up to the starting line of a race and then say, you are free to compete with all the others, and still justly believe that you have been completely fair. Thus, it is not enough just to open the gates of opportunity. All our citizens must have the ability to walk through those gates. And this is...
That was Lyndon Johnson, former president, speaking at Howard University commencement. Taking someone who was in chains, unshackled him, takes him to the middle of the road and tell him he's free now to go fend for himself. We must open the gates of opportunity for all. And quite a consequential speech, Sam. Lyndon Johnson right there at Howard University. The greatest Lyndon Johnson, the Great Society comes to mind. Lyndon Johnson, the Connor Commission comes to mind. 50 years later, I think we're still dealing with the question whether people who have been left in the middle of the road and told to go fend for themselves, have been able to do that.
Obviously, that hasn't occurred. When we look at the data in Detroit right now is worse off than it was 51 years ago when Detroit was burning. We look at home ownership, where it was over 51 years ago in Detroit and where it is now, and the bulk of residents in Detroit are renting, not owning homes, in particular in Black Detroit, which is, of course, majority Detroit. You know, it's something when I hear his words, Michael, and I look at the last paragraph of your article yesterday,
right?
It's something to hear him say what you've written from him in terms of the quote. And those were very perilous times for politicians in the White House, because the Times, and I was a participant in those times, literally drove him from the presidency. And a lot of folks in Washington who wore the title Democrat fought vigorously against many of the programs that Lyndon Johnson espoused. So the challenge before us, as you quote W.E.B. Du Bois, race remains the big dividing line in America. America has not been able to deal with that issue. And here in Detroit and around urban America, wherever you find poverty, you're going to find high crime, poor schools, segregated areas. Detroit still, I believe, remains the most segregated big city in America.
Right.
And the culture we must change is not so much the culture amongst the victims of America, but the power brokers in America.
Tina, your take.
No, I agree. There has to be a consciousness moving policy towards progress, and that hasn't happened. It's been 50 years, and regardless of who's been in office, Republicans, Democrats, or, Democrats that didn't align with that kind of shift in policy changes, it hasn't been enough, and there have been too many people left behind, and, the numbers are very dim, and I'm not here to be, an omen, something like that, but it's not good. And
it is what it is.
It is what it is, but it has to be heard, it has to be real. These numbers don't lie, and it's not getting the press it needs to, because it's kind of being swept under the rug, and just kind of keeping people complacent.
Well, and I'm not trying to give myself kudos, but I think aside from the national media, Power Spy column was the only column in the local media here on this kind of commission report. But I think to your point, Tina, I think Brian, the question is this report being appreciated? One would think that, in fact, in America's largest poverty city, that this report coming out saying this, that in fact we will get a reaction from the administration in terms of what it is doing to mitigate the issues that are raised in this report. I was at Pancakes and Politics yesterday, and I think I heard Mayor Duggan talk about Chase Bank and Jamie Dimon. And every time I hear the mayor talk about, Chase Bank is always in. No, I'm just.
I got to go.
Because they're buried contradictions, hypocrisy, and I appreciate context. I don't appreciate uncritical review. It's one thing to genuflect and engage in political acrobatics in front of an institution. It's another thing to give a reasoned, analysis and statement about that institution. And one would think that, in fact, this administration, or this city council, if you will, would say, okay, here's the kind of commission report. We recognize this report has said, and this is where we want to work to fill these gaps. But no mention, nothing whatsoever about the kind of commission report from the city administration. What we see is a continued genuflection before financial institutions like Chase Bank that give us $150 million when they were linked to the crash on Wall Street and had to pay Eric Holder, the federal government, billions of dollars for their role in the crash on Wall Street that sent Black homes in a state of despair, converted people into destitutes, and so forth. So when they come with $150 million, as we put this in the context, like Tina said, Detroit is a modern day kind of commission, we should not be in salutation fashion as if this is the best thing that happened. $150 million, I see that there's some sort of recompense that may not be enough. Go ahead.
Well, we had $170 million spent from that demolition program and only, what did it, I think, was it 13 million out of the 170 went to black-owned companies? Now, that's federal money. That's hardest hit fund money. That's not even anybody's individual money except ours. And we want to talk about the level of participation we had in Little Caesars Arena construction project. Let's not even go there, the fines that were paid. That's money that's already there. That's not even subject to the decision-making capacity of one company or CEO or Jamie Dimon or anyone else. Those are public funds, at least in the hardest hit fund that we're talking. That's federal money. So what mechanisms do we have in place that we used to have in place and make sure those funds are allocated to create jobs? And don't forget, this is demolition. We don't need rocket scientists out there tearing down homes. This is jobs that could be created to a very large proportion of our citizens and residents in the city of Detroit. How do you have that money not allocated necessarily to the jobs that could have been created in our African community? And what economic impact did we have? And guess what? There's another $250 million coming. And in that next $250 million, what controls are in place to see that that is used to create jobs here for the residents in the city of Detroit? That's one right on the table right now.
On the question of unemployment. Right. I think fair point there. Let's go back to the panel. Sam, your take.
Well, my take, and just to elaborate a bit on the previous analysis, I'm just amazed at how this Mayor Duggan, he almost is one of those individuals that says, I'm going to close my eyes, you can't see me.